and welcome to each of you to our February 24th, 2025 board meeting. At this time, I would ask for a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lee. Any questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will call for the vote. Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, at this time, we will move into the next item on our agenda, which are our district highlights, and I believe we will welcome Mr. Bohannon. Thank you.
Dr. Robbins, Dr. Wimberly, I'm looking back to our friends from the Junior Service League of Somerville. Thumbs down, thumbs up. She's here, wonderful. First up this evening, I'd like to welcome Miss Morgan Asbell, President of the Junior Service League of Somerville, for a special presentation.
Just want to say good evening and thank you for letting us come tonight. My name's Morgan and I'm joined by several members of the Junior Service League. We're here to share a little bit about our fall fundraising events and then present a donation to the district. So before we do that, I just want to take a minute and tell you a little bit about JSL in case anyone isn't familiar. We are a group of women, volunteer only, who are really passionate about supporting our community. We've been volunteering in Somerville for over 30 years. I think this year is our 37th year in existence. And we do hands-on volunteer work, and then we also raise money. We collectively volunteer about 4,000 hours at different nonprofit organizations annually. And then we also fundraise for those organizations and District 2 and 4. So in the fall, we host 4 signature events: Scarecrows on the Square, Ghost Walk, Christmas trees on the square, and Pajamas with Santa, which you probably have all been to at least one or all of those. And then the money we raise from these events goes into what we call our school supply fund, and then we evenly distribute that money that we raise between all the schools in DD2 and DD4. So this year, thanks to all the hard work of the ladies behind me and many more, and the generosity of our community, we raised a total of $22,548.48. So in a couple weeks, our treasurer is going to be mailing a check around to each school, an even amount of that money. And we just want to thank you guys for participating in our events, supporting the Junior Service League, and also giving us an opportunity to give back to our schools. And we look forward to collaborating more with the district in the future. Thanks.
Next up, to highlight some student achievement, I'd like to welcome to the podium Dr. Michelle Leviner, Principal, Somerville High School.
Good evening, Superintendent Robbins, Board Chair Wimberly, and esteemed board members. It is my honor tonight to introduce the Somerville High School Naval Junior ROTC Orienteering Team, led by Team Cadet Commander Ada Lee Johnson and under the direction of Chief Wilson. Orienteering teams participate in competitions where cadets use a map and a compass to navigate through a course to find designated checkpoints in the fastest time possible. They basically have to use their land navigation skills, physical endurance, and decision-making abilities across varied terrains while relying solely on their map reading and compass usage. They compete against other ROTC units in local, regional, and national events. On January 21st of this year, our orienteering team was informed that they won the Area 7 Championship, equivalent to an athletic team winning state. Our varsity girls won their section with the overall winners. First place, Isabella Aaron. Step forward. Step forward. Third place, Yasmin Hamilton. And sixth place, Noah Smith. Our JV girls won their section also with the overall winners sweeping the podium. First place, Delaney Wright. Second place, Ava Ennis. Eva. And third place, Charlie Jameson. As you can see, these 6 young ladies led the charge among the orienteering team. No offense to the boys, they did good too. Honorable mentions against a very competitive men's field in varsity and JV, Christopher Levine. Garion DeBello. Casey Carroll. And Zane Aaron. I would also like to add that our cadets placed so high and represented Somerville well while competing in extremely difficult weather conditions this year. Snow and ice ran throughout the course. Temperatures were at freezing and did not rise much higher by the end of the race day. These cadet students have not only shown their physical endurance, but also their mental fortitude in the most challenging of conditions. I would also like to give special thanks to the Naval Science instructors, our lead, Senior Chief Donald, Chief McCullen, who graciously chaperoned the event, and Chief Wilson, who led the team. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you. Well, and Adelaide, yes. Okay. All right, are we good? Yes, I didn't announce. I announced her at the beginning because that's where. Oh, that's because she gave me a hard time. That's what happens. If you didn't give me a hard time, no. Team Cadet Commander Adelaide Johnson led the orienteering team. So congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Lerviner, and congratulations. Finally, we'll welcome Miss Galia Mercer-Brown, our Director of School Counseling, is here to present our 2025 District Counselor of the Year.
Good evening, Dr. Robbins and members of the Board of Trustees. It is my honor to introduce this year's DD2 School Counselor of the Year, Amanda Davis of Fort Dorchester Elementary School. With 17 years of experience as a dedicated school counselor, including 11 years serving the students of Dorchester II, Amanda is committed to serving the whole child and fostering student success. She holds a bachelor's degree in elementary education from the College of Charleston and a master's degree in school counseling from the Citadel, equipping her with the knowledge and expertise to support the academic, career, and personal development of our students. As both a passionate advocate for her students and a parent of a DD2 student, she understands firsthand the importance of creating a nurturing and supportive school environment. Her unwavering dedication to student well-being, personal growth, and academic achievement makes her
counselors have to make on their students' lives is greater than ever before. Long gone are the days of guidance counselors that existed solely to work with students that were labeled as troubled kids or to tell you what colleges to apply to. Today's school counselors are reading school improvement plans, analyzing school report cards, and examining achievement and behavior data to identify and implement strategies to support individual student outcomes. Through collaboration with our stakeholders, we provide support and opportunities for the children of DD2 to reach their highest potential as empathetic, ambitious, productive citizens in an ever-changing global society. As your school counselor of the year, I will continue to be a fierce advocate for our students while also representing our district's vision and mission. I am also grateful for this opportunity, and I will continue to be a champion for our students. Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda this evening, we have our public comments on agenda items, and we do not have any. So we will move into the next item on our agenda, which is our board chair's report. And this evening, I have included our board meeting dates for the 2025-2026 school year for us to approve. So, board members, these were included in our packets, and so I trust that you all had an opportunity to look them over. And at this time, I would ask for a motion to approve these board meeting dates as presented.
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Farnsworth. Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will call for the vote. Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, and the next item on our agenda are our board committee reports. First up, we have our policy meeting. Our policy committee. Ms. Bates.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The policy committee met at 5 p.m. today prior to this board meeting, so we'll have several policies up for first reading at the next board meeting. And as a reminder, those are the dates of the upcoming meetings as well. And that is all I have for today.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bates. Next is our finance committee, Mr. Guthrie.
Yes, the Finance Committee was able to meet this afternoon at 4 p.m., and we went over multitude of topics, including full muscle chicken and kind of multiple times. But yeah, about probably a full description of the schedule upcoming for the budget process coming in the superintendent's report.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. All right, and then last but certainly not least, our facilities committee, Mr. Farnsworth.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to make sure, are we going to go back and talk about our annual convention? I didn't want you to skip over that.
Yes, I was anticipating that we would do that at our next board meeting. It is? I apologize.
We were all
excited.
I am so sorry. My apologies. It's not on our agenda. Right. It isn't listed on our agenda, and that so I was planning to include that on our next meeting, just to give board members time to reflect on that. If everyone is okay with that. Yes.
Love it.
Since it was
All
not
good,
included
all
on
good.
the
I
agenda
just want to
for
make sure
this
you weren't
evening.
like so excited to hear about the facilities report.
No, I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. But I again, as I said, I am certainly planning to have us all talk about the excellent conference, but I was planning to do it at the next meeting, if that's okay with everyone.
Love
I
it.
promise I will not forget.
All good. Facilities meetings. So the facilities committee met prior to the last school board meeting, February 10th. Had a meaningful discussion, and again, just to reiterate, the purpose of the Facilities Committee meetings, really for the foreseeable future, will be to talk about referendum projects, because that's the bulk of our work going on right now. We do have, and a lot of this will be highlighted later on in the meeting under the operations report. Of course, same, we have projects up and down the board at almost, I would say, the majority of our schools right now. So a lot of stuff happening in the facilities world. You can see our next committee meeting schedules. The one thing I did want to put in the back of board members' minds, more than likely coming out of the facilities committee, we will need some help from the board looking at the ponds property. So there are still some land agreement issues, primarily between other entities. So not the school district, but unfortunately we're kind of in the middle of what's happening out there. And so a lot of the discussion, we've had a lot of further conversations, and so just, again, putting that in front of my fellow board members, that we will probably look for some sort of formal information letter, something going to those entities so we can hopefully get that out of gridlock. So that's what I've got from facilities. Happy to answer any questions, and thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Farnsworth. Appreciate that. All right, next item on our agenda is our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You can see we have several items on the agenda tonight. I wanted to start first with our partnership report with Tri-County STEM Immersion, and we're very happy to have Michelle McDonald here that's going to talk to you a little bit about STEM Immersion. So thanks for being here tonight, Michelle.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time. I just wanted to take a chance really to build awareness about this amazing program. Like Dr. Robbins said, I'm Michelle McDonald. I'm Deputy Director of Dorchester Economic Development, but I also have the pleasure of representing Dorchester County on this Tri-County initiative. So Tri-County STEM Immersion is a program that we host every year for educators and counselors across the Tri-County area, really to bridge the gap between industry and education. So we are bringing in educators June 9th through the 13th, dates have already been set, to come in and work behind the scenes to learn how STEM is being used in the real world. During that time, they're actually getting hands-on experience creating lesson plans, creating projects, and getting paid. We pay them a training stipend while they're with us because we know we're taking time out of their summers and really putting them to work. So they're getting experience all across the Tri-County area, and not only looking at those technical skills and STEM careers, but also the soft skills. What is the industry needing today? What are they saying that our students are lacking? And how do we implement that back in the classroom? It's so important. We are actually celebrating our 8th year this year, so it's doing really well. Last year, we doubled our participation. This year, we have an even more aggressive goal of bringing in 150 educators and counselors. However, applications close on Friday, so we want to make sure DD2 is well represented, and we have most of our business and industry partners are representing in Dorchester as well, so make sure you get your applications in. Things that you could do to help us out as well. Administration, host a representative. Bring us out to be able to share about the program specifically and answer questions to your staff. Go to the website, www.tricountystimimmersion.com. You can get directly there to the application. You can see past lesson plans and projects that have been created. There's videos, there's pictures to see all the experiences that past participants have done. It's really intricate to close this gap that exists between education and industry, and this is the most impactful program to do it. So I really appreciate your time. I expect to see, and where's Ms. Davis? I expect to see the Counselor of the Year applying as well. So thank you, guys. Any questions from the board?
I have a question, but it's more for you. Could we send out a message to our staff via Parent Square and let them know? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talked about was taking this QR code and this website link and sending it out to our staff to try to increase numbers. Yep. Matter of fact,
If you
we'll
have
do
a
it tonight.
chance, the QR code will actually take you directly to the application, and my contact is there as well.
Yeah, let's do that. That would be awesome. I appreciate
Thank you all.
Next up, we have just a quick goals update for you all. Just a reminder, if you will bring your binders in, I will start putting these stoplights and these sheets in for each one of your goals. This is a 3-year goal cycle. So here's just a few updates to share with you. One of the things we talked about, and I haven't put any of those in there as of yet, but we talked about in our comprehensive financial planning, increased revenue through grants. So far to date, we have acquired a $150,000 safety grant that we were just awarded about 3 weeks ago. We did receive notification that we are one of 32 school districts to receive the alternate compensation model strategic compensation pilot. I tried to get 4 schools, but they gave me one for $218,000. So I think that's a good thing for us to start on, because that really kind of hits 2 things. It's grant money for us, and it also gives us an avenue to look at alternative compensation models. And then the third one, I just got notification of, actually late last week, was a family literacy grant that we can use in the fall of '25 for $30,000. So you'll see that list continue to grow, and we'll keep you all updated on that. But we're trying to be as strategic as we can to reach out and gain some of that revenue. The second item or area was safety and security. So I know we've done a lot of talking about anti-bullying measures. So I met with our team today actually, Vector Solutions, which we own. They have 3 different types of modules: anti-bullying recognition and response for K-12 employees, and they also have a training module for students as well. So we're going to look through and see if that might be something that will work for us and provide that training, similar to not a one-and-done type thing, but an annual training requirement, kind of like, and I don't want to oversimplify this because it's an important area, but bloodborne pathogens. We have to do that every single year. So we're talking about how can we implement that in with our staff, and how can we implement it in with our students to start every single school year, just to make sure people accentuate the importance of that in our district. And then the second one underneath that is we have just about finished the review of our progressive student discipline guidelines. We'll implement those in the fall of 2025. Any questions?
I was just going to remind you, if you don't mind looking into possibly incorporating that dignity index as well as peer mediation into our strategy for anti-bullying and all of that. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one, just a quick update on our staff childcare initiative. So we have the location identified. We've put out a thought exchange to garner interest. And if all things go according to plan, we'll be able to open this in the fall of 2025. To date, I can give you some rough numbers. We have over 91 teachers that have said that they would utilize the service, and another 50 that said maybe. So we do have plenty of respondents for the service. Now the next thing is to meet with who will be that provider for the service, where we would be the actual, we would lease out the space for our staff. So we're making progress on that one. Feel pretty good where we are to date. I still have the thought exchange open. I've gotten a few more responses back. And I just want to remind, our board and as well as our team that we look at a lot of different staff recruitment and retention options, and not every single one will touch every single employee. We're trying to touch as many different employees in as many different ways, similar to what we did with the stipends for our bus drivers and what we've done with the LEAP program. And, so we're we're trying to find as many creative ways as possible to try to meet the needs of our staff, to recruit and retain them and let them know how much they mean to us. So again, that's just a quick update. You'll get a more thorough update here in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks, but I wanted to touch on those things, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
New guy here.
Yes, sir.
So as I read these, a lot of yellow lights here at the stoplights. Maybe you could kind of give us a little bit of, what is that telling us in terms of caution or concerns you have in being able to meet the goals? And I'm grateful there's no red lights.
Yeah.
But
so if you look in your goal binders, I give you a description on what red, amber, and green is. Green means we've finished the project. Amber means that we are on track, but it's not completed yet. Red means it's not started or we're behind schedule. So, and again, this is just, we've got 30 of them. So these are just a few to give you an indicator where we are. But that's what the stoplight means. It gives you a good indicator. If you see yellow, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. That just means it's not complete yet. So, a good question.
Thank you for that. So looking at it and asking it differently through the lens of, are there any of these that you have concerns about in being able to actually meet these goals?
The ones that we have on this slide here, no, absolutely not. There may be a few others, but again, as a reminder, it's a 3-year goal cycle. Some of these will, to maybe coin your term, some of these are evergreen goals, so there's never a finality to them. They're year in and year out. So, for example, if you look at reading and math and our digital literacy proficiencies, those are never just fully green. We may green them annually and then go back to an amber state, and then at the end of that next year, decide whether it's amber or it's green. So, but those are our evergreen goals. It'll be that way. Not all these are, one and done. This is a good question. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. All right, the next thing I have, I'm going to turn it over to Katie Barker and Thad Schmink to go over our mid-year, as we say, pulse check on achievement as we get ready for this year's spring SC Ready testing. And if I could coin a phrase from an old finance person I worked with, this is a checkup, not an autopsy.
I'll keep my Euclidean references to a minimum then. So just want to, a quick checkup. First of all, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, everybody at home. We wanted to get a little check on our growth and how we use our MAP program. Here we can see one of the first things that we do is we want to take a look at our overall fall to winter observed growth. As you can see here in both ELA and math over the last few years, this is the average growth on our RIT index for each particular student. And this is for our whole district as a whole. So as you can see here in math, we're making some larger gains than we've made in the past. And the same thing with ELA. So that's a good direction to see those charts going. When we break it down a little bit more by grade level, and of course, please keep in mind that the average expected growth for middle school is a little different than elementary. So we're actually right in our little targeted area of what the program is suggesting. And we're just giving you there a little more insight as to what's happening at the elementary versus the middle level on both ELA and math. We're seeing a lot of great growth in elementary and math and as well as in middle school. And we are very excited about that because we have a very large trend. I know COVID's a word we used a long time ago, but it's a long road to recovery on that, but we are definitely making that as well. But like any good Ryman mathematician would say, you got to go a little bit further into the data. And we don't like to just look at just overall things. We like to dig deeper. And one of the ways that we do this is we look at conditional growth, and not to get too far into the mathematical term, but for the mathematicians at home, this is basically z-scores, where there's mathematical way of taking all the different grade levels that have different expectations and getting them aligned using z-scores to make them all equal. This will help us to know whether a student who grows 2 in 2nd grade is equal to a student who grows 2 in 6th grade, which, by the way, it's not, right? But this is a way of equalizing all that, so we can look across our grade levels, and we can look across, well, this is our years, and we can see that we truly are making gains in math the last 2 years. Big growth happening there. And in ELA, I know it seems a little, we'd like to be on the other side of that middle line, but we're not too far off. And just so everybody knows, that middle line is the expected growth. So if you were doing what you were supposed to be doing according to MAP every year, those bar graphs would be extremely small. Perhaps you wouldn't even be able to see them. So we reversed a lot of negative growth from those first couple of years, and we're very excited about the math growth that we're making. And then again, we want to keep digging, and that's, I think, a big theme for tonight, is that we start large and we keep digging down, and we provide a lot of information based on levels, based on grade. I didn't bring in all the different grades tonight, but principals will go in here and we'll look not only at levels, we're going to look at grades, we're going to look at classrooms, and really drill down. And this is a great report. So this is an on-track report that's showing you here by grade level, because again, we don't want the performance of 1 or 2 grade levels to mask the poor performance of other grade levels. But what you can see there in those purple lines are what the projections are for where they think our school should be if we were the average national school. And when the bar graph goes to the right of that purple line, that means that we are exceeding the national average of where they think that we should be. And we can see there, especially in reading, that we're exceeding all of the national norms, and in math, with perhaps the exception of 1 or 2, supposed to be. And I know that 6th grade is a little bit to the left of that purple line, but we are used to that 6th grade being way to the left of that purple line. So we're excited that we are nearing that expectation.
Just for clarity, are you saying the purple line is the national average, or it's the expected for that grade level?
It's both. So it's the expected national performance of, if you were looking at other schools.
But not like the actual national, because I know maybe the national average RIT score might be below or above what is expected.
So in other words, if all the other schools were growing nationally, if our schools were growing nationally like all the other schools are, then we would be equal to that purple line. So when we exceed that purple line, we are growing, we're beating the curve, we're ahead of the curve.
Okay, understood.
Okay. So that's a very positive feedback there. But again, we don't like to just compare ourselves nationally. We like to compare ourselves to ourselves. We are our biggest competitor, and that's what this chart here shows. The diamonds are what we should be doing based on our performance, not just, it's nice to look nationally and say, hey, that's great, but how are we living up to our standards? And we can see here in math, so when NWA, the parent company for MAP growth, gives us all these estimates, they're giving us based on those diamonds. And anytime, again, that bar exceeds that diamond, then we're ahead of even what they're predicting for our own personal goals. So here in math, we're definitely knocking it out of the park. And then when we get to language arts, we see some slight dips there. We are aware of what's going on in 6th grade, and some of that we believe is due to the fact that our ELA standards have changed, and a lot of that is affecting that 5th, 6th grade. And so we know that there's a little, new materials, new pacing guides, new indicators, new standards. It takes a little bit of time for teachers to be able to adjust. But overall, we're doing a very good job. And remember, this is our own personal goals set for ourselves. As you could see in that previous slide, for ELA, we're still way above the norm for the nation. So, but again, we have a little bit higher goal for ourselves, and that's what we're demonstrating here. So even at our own personal goals, we're knocking the large majority of them out of the park, which is great. And again, I don't want to get too far into the weeds tonight, but I just want to let everybody know that this is just skimming the top. Our principals, our teachers, our coaches, our school psychologists, everybody has access to many other reports inside of the MAP application, inside the software. They can break everything down to the student level. We're assigning student level goals. There's classrooms. Teachers can see, oh, well, on this particular standard, I'm on the 45th for the nation. On this particular standard, I'm on the 63rd for the nation. It provides them a multitude of data points, and I just want to stress that because I know that sometimes you come in here and it's just all this surface stuff, but we really do dive in deep. And I want to say, too, that I know that Ms. Barker will be talking in a moment about, so here's the data, what are we doing? But I want to steal a little bit of her show and say that I'm very excited that in our data team that Ms. Barker and Mr. Cannon have seen fit to get me into the schools a little bit more, and we are really working a lot more with administrators, with coaches, with Title I facilities, anybody who's willing to listen to me and talk about data. And we're getting in front of them and really helping to build that capacity to drill down. We have a lot of great things going on there, but we also have a lot of newcomers to the profession as well as to DD2, and we're trying to just make sure that they all get up to the standard there. And so one of the things I want to talk about tonight is I don't have a Euclidean formula to completely compare MAP growth and SC Ready, but I know that sometimes the public is very curious, so well, why MAP? Why do we use this? Well, SC Ready happens one time a year, and we want to be prepared for it. We don't want to wait to the end to find out what's happening. So we've got MAP. We plug that in fall, usually August, December, and then again in April, and it does guide a lot of our decisions. So why are we choosing MAP? Because MAP aligns, and it aligns well. So I know it's a little complicated, I wish it were a little bit easier, but so MAP uses what they call quintiles, so they break everything down into groups of 5. SC Ready breaks it down into quartiles, which is 4. But if you can kind of see there that, for example, this is last year's spring MAP compared to last year's spring SC Ready. And if you take those proportionalities and you show they're pretty spot on, meaning, yeah, it's never going to be perfect, but how well MAP is predicting and mapping our growth towards SC Ready and having our kids prepared, I don't think there's a single assessment out there that will align perfectly. And even if we had our own SC standard perfect alignment thing, there would be hard to then, you still want to compare yourselves out to the nation. So we feel that NWA has a good product and they do a really good job, and we're very happy. And because, as you know me, I'm skeptical of everything, so we like to make sure that everything is going on, and their praise isn't really undeserved there. When we run our own internal correlations, you can see here on the left that the correlations are coming up as 0.85, 0.83 for math over the last 2 years, and for ELA, 0.86 and 0.87. And the little chart off to the side, you can go online. There's quite a few of these charts. This was the most stringent chart that makes very strong correlation starting at the 0.91. I think Dr. Wimberly, I think even pharmaceutical-wise, I think all you got to do is have a 0.85 to sell drugs. So we're in the pharmaceutical business when it comes to NWA. And so once again, going to quote Euclid here and say, quod satis est, meaning what we're doing is good enough. I think there for those stats are good enough to say that we have our faith in what MAP can provide for us. All right, any questions for me on the numbers?
I do have one question, and I'm just curious your opinion or thoughts on this. So we met with the district or watched a presentation over this weekend where we were, and they were talking about using the MAP for K through 2nd grade and it correlating to SE Ready really well, but finding that it doesn't correlate really well from 3rd through 8th grade. Do you feel like you see that same trend or not so much? Or
well, this, like I said, our internal studies, that's 3 through 8.
Okay, yeah.
The K1-2, I'm not really sure what they're comparing that to.
I don't know. Is that what they said, or yeah?
We don't really have a state assessment to
okay.
compare it to.
Oh yeah, because it's not. We don't do SE Ready for. Okay, yeah.
Now they could be referencing what they just believe to be, their MAP's take on how well it aligns to just our.
I think that's
our,
kind
our
of what
state
they meant.
standards.
Yeah, the state standards.
And there's always adjustment taking place. For example, in the fall, NWA, when a student takes that initial assessment, or every time they revisit that assessment at the beginning of the year, they will be fed. So it's an adaptive test. So
yes.
you're going to get like the first 15, 20 questions kind of helps to guide it, and then it's going to kind of pursue your weaknesses and strengths until it gets a better feel for you.
Right.
So what they're going to be doing now they use the first 15 to 20 questions are nationally normed questions for that grade level. Starting in fall of 2025, there'll be South Carolina-based questions, and then it will trigger the national algorithm, if you will. So NWA is always trying to adapt to keep it real. Again,
I just wasn't
not-
sure if you found like it did have a strong correlation or didn't.
I mean, there are definitely, I know my ELA teachers are probably out there upset about, the main idea and central idea that that's still a remnant of the old standards versus the new standards.
Right.
Yes, and NWA is, again, working to correct that, but, things take time. Unfortunately, we're more reactive than proactive, and but we do feel as though, again, with those correlations, with those scores, at least for our district, it's working well.
Right. I definitely love MAP. I use MAP testing at home, even on my young one, and so I go into all the specifics, and it shows me what skills I need remediation on, all that. So it's an excellent tool.
Then you're aware,
so
yeah.
not negating that by any means, but I was just curious. Thank you. I appreciate you.
It's interesting, and could the argument be made to me, looking at the two of those, you've got MAP and then SC Ready. Obviously, SC Ready is extremely important to the district because that's how we're graded as a district, our report cards from the state of South Carolina. But what's interesting about that, when we talk about MAP and then the nationally normed information there, to me, that's almost the more important test.
Yeah, I mean, to me, MAP is the more important test because it's the one that's providing our teachers with actionable data. They are using this to create small groups. We are using this for our MTSS process. We are using this, for example, now we have redesigned some of our reports. For example, in our gifted and talented program, we've been working with a lot of the GT teachers to make sure that those students are growing. And now that we have these conditional growth, that we can watch this kid from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade on an equalized scale. We can watch and see whether you might be hitting exceed every single year on SC Ready, but with MAP we can see whether you're weakening or strengthening in your growth and in your knowledge. Where SC Ready is just sort of a one and done.
One and done.
And the data is. I mean, that's why it's written into state statute that we have to provide one of these formative tests 3 times a year. And NWA is definitely on the approved list for that.
A little bit part and parcel, but a little bit out of scope of this. Will you talk about, because I think what's increasingly frustrating to really everybody in the educational field in South Carolina, we are accused every single day of being the last in the nation. South Carolina public schools are horrible based on some random metric that somebody picks out of the sky that day. Will you talk to that a little bit and just how you norm that to what we're actually seeing? I will preface by saying I think South Carolina's standards are actually much, much, much higher than the entire nation, which would then lead to the argument of somebody saying, well, you guys aren't as good. Well, we're actually way better.
Yeah, well, I could definitely stand this podium a very long time and make many solid arguments. But I think the short one will be, so when you look at MAP and the national norming, that we know that once the student achieves a MAP nationally normed scale or a percentile of about 65th, 68th, that we feel rather confident that the student will be meets or exceeds on South Carolina Ready, which means you don't have to be in the top half of the nation to be meets. You have to be in the top 65th, 68th in the nation to be meets. So again, we could lower the bar and have everybody meets and all pat ourselves on the back, or we can raise the bar, have a lofty goal to try to obtain, and do what's best for kids and try to stretch them to that goal. And I think that's what South Carolina does. And not to get too far into the whole growth metric, but with the new MAT, AVT, the state is definitely this idea of the stretch goal with that AVT and really helping to drive instruction. And just the conversations that I've been having with principals and teachers, I just had one today over Somerville Elementary. I mean, it really, you saw a lot of ideas going off in educators' heads about a stretch goal, and yeah, so.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure all the questions were over. And I will not be upset that Thad stole a lot of my thunder. So good evening. Thank you for having me this evening to just follow up with, now that we've shared the data, kind of how are we reacting to it. So a lot of these bullets we have shared before, so I'll just speak quickly about those and certainly answer any questions you have. We've shared previously that, and Thad just mentioned it, that this year a new initiative was to have quarterly data meetings with each principal once a quarter. So once we finished winter MAP administration, this Q3 data meeting really focused on, for their school, the data that Thad just shared, but also, and most importantly, what is their action plan in responding to that? And that, I think a year ago, was something really digging into that growth part of MAP was not something that we were doing a whole lot of. So that has been huge to support teachers and students in the schools. We also, and Thad mentioned this, have, because of the new growth measure from the state, been able to really focus our professional development for administrators with how we're using those MAP reports. We used to just look kind of at where are we in comparison across the nation, did we grow, but now really digging into that a little bit more to look to see, did we grow enough? And if we didn't, let's identify those students or those teachers so we can really pinpoint those. And then as we've done that with administrators, now we're seeing that trickle down to teachers. Mr. Schmink shared that he was at Somerville Elementary doing that with teachers. We also have some PD coaches that are doing sessions similar to that, digging into those MAP growth reports with the teachers in their base school, helping them design lessons and using that learning continuum that MAP provides based on the specific needs for each student. We also have increased and kind of upped the ante, for lack of a better way to say it, the student goal setting that our teachers are doing. It used to be, are we growing? Did you go up a point? And that's still a celebration. We certainly are celebrating that with all students. But did they meet their MAP growth goal? And again, that really brings us just to that MAT, that first level of growth. But then helping teachers set that stretch goal or that AVT goal, and then making sure that that's communicated to students so that they know where they're shooting for each time that they take the MAP test. We have a ton of school celebrations for incentives that are focusing really on that growth part. So it's exciting to see what schools are doing at their buildings to really celebrate students. And a lot of them are also then turning around and doing things with teachers if a percentage of your students are meeting that growth goal as well. So also, as always, we work really hard to ensure that that is all communicated to parents, whether it be through conferences, phone calls, other communications, especially if there's a concern, if a student isn't growing at the rate that it seems that they should be based on their NWEA growth projection. NWEA MAP also gives us a projected proficiency that we can use for the end of the year to help us really target where we think some of our student scores will be, so that way we can really focus on maybe some students that need a little bit more support to fall into that meets or exceeds category. And then something that I think is critical that Thad mentioned, that I just want to remind everyone that, you know, we are currently in a year where we are not only in the middle of implementing new new ELA standards, also a completely new ELA curriculum, K-12. So although you certainly saw some dips in some areas that we know we need to focus on, but also knowing that anytime something's completely new, there we would anticipate usually a little dip. So we are able to kind of plan for that and support in that area. And a big part of that is using the data that we're getting from MAP now that it's mid-year, instead of having to wait till we get SC ready data at the end of the year, and responding with support for the new ELA standards, the new curriculum, but also we are using this year as a bridge year for the new math standards. So although it's not full implementation, there is certainly some impact there for math as well. So that is all. I have one slide. So that is all here. I am sure that you have some questions that I am happy to answer for you.
I have a question. For the professional development, you said you know that you identify, you look at the MAP reports, look for areas where either a teacher or class or grade level is not meeting a certain standard.
Mm-hmm.
For that professional development, what does that look like? Are they like going in and helping us, apart from developing lessons, are they actually in the classroom helping these teachers teach that standard?
Certainly.
And showing them ways and skills to actually...
Mm-hmm. So it really depends on what the need is there that the report is telling us. Sometimes, for example, the report might show you that one teacher is not seeing growth in that highest quintile of students. So that might be some coaching with a PD coach or a principal or assistant principal, really focusing on higher level thinking, really deeper level questions, things like that. If the growth, really looking at that data and the reports in MAP are showing that a lot of the students are struggling, then that might be a co-teaching model where one of our PD coaches would go in and really work alongside some of those teachers. So it really depends on what the data is telling us. But yes, all of the above, I think, just really based on what the needs are.
I hate to put you on the spot, but
it's okay.
My question, I'm wondering, do you feel like you have the adequate support to provide that professional development as well currently, like that we need to remediate these things and to come into the classroom and teach? And
Sure. I think that's a great question. And you're not putting me on the spot. I think that we
just want to make sure we provide to you what you guys need to support your students as well.
I think that we have the staff to provide the support. I think, to be transparent, there are times where it takes us a couple of weeks to get maybe the specialist in that content area, because you saw sixth grade ELA, for example. That is not a one school. And that's not something that we want to address with that's not a quick 30-minute session with a group of teachers that we really, build a plan to address that area. So do I feel like we are able to meet those needs? Yes. Do I feel like if we had more staff or there were some changes or something else there, could we do it at a deeper level in a more timely manner? Obviously, yes.
Awesome. The reason I ask is obviously we're going through a budget cycle, so I think, where our budget priorities are kind of reflect where our priorities are as a district. So I want to ensure that, we're looking at those things. Can we move some stuff around to better provide the support that you guys need if we need it? So thank you.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Board Chair Wimberly, board members, and Dr. Robbins. Speaking of budgets, now you have the finance people up here giving our good segue. Thank you. So this evening, the finance team has prepared the financial reports as of January 31st of 2025. First report we like to look at is our balance sheet report. This is for our general fund. At the end of January, our assets were $69.4 million. As well as our liabilities and fund balance. And we are right on target with where we were in comparison with last year. So for this report, I want to give it a green light. I didn't know we were giving our reports green lights, red lights, and yellow, but I'm going with green. So our revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance is the next report. I will say that the ideal percentage for the January 31, 2025 should have reflected the same number as 24, which should be 42%. So the ideal percentage at this point of the year, if we were evenly spread over 12 months, would be at 42%. So as we get closer to 0%, that means we have received as much money as what we had projected in our budget for revenues and expenditures. So we're right on target with where we should be with our revenues, our total revenues of $284 million that we projected for this year. We don't get them evenly throughout the year, so this reflects 50%, but we are right on target as where we were last year in comparison. Same with expenditures. Again, we don't have expenditures evenly over the year, but the main reason, which I'll show you on our cash flow statement, is because we accrue our salaries and benefits in July for our certified staff. So we are right on target with where we were last year. So another green light for revenues, expenditures, and fund balance statement. So for our cash flow statement, the next statement, we are in the middle of our spreadsheet for January of this year. Again, the spreadsheet, the cash flow analysis is great because it shows you where the other reports were accumulative of every month from July 1 through January 31. This one shows you each month what the activity is. So this is where you can really see that we don't collect every month the same amount of money. So now we are coming up to where we're only negative $0.9 million in our change in fund balance for this year, but it's coming up each month. You can see where it goes up. But just the June column, the one to the left of the total column, is where you can see that the expenditures reflected are almost double because like I just said, we moved the salaries and benefits for our teachers back to June that are paid in July because their contracts run from August through July. So that's why that month looks a little bit heavier for expenditures. But if you can look at the end of the year on the total, we are projecting our fund balance to be right at 20%, which is right on target. A little higher than the goal that the board anticipated, but I love being at 20% where we were locked in for 15% for all those years. This helps us tremendously with bond ratings, and if we have emergencies, if there's ever a federal hold on monies, we have a little bit of cushion. So another green light. So if you have any questions on any of these reports before I go to one more thing. Okay, super. The last thing that Mr. Guthrie talked about a little while ago was in the Finance Committee meeting, the calendar was presented. So with one change on the budget calendar from the March 10th board workshop, since this was really the meeting that we had this evening was the legislative update outlook, just the beginning of the budget season, we won't get better numbers until March 31st is what we would like to change March 10th to March 31st to have our next board workshop. So this would be our suggested calendar for this year.
All right, thank you very much. So board members, making that note that we are changing the date from March 10th to March 31st. At this time, I would ask for a motion to accept the budget calendar with that change.
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Bates. Any questions or discussion? Discussion? No. Okay. All right, hearing none, then we will call for the vote. Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. My operations friends are next.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, if I could just take it a moment, I want to thank the team for all they're going through. While I approve the budget calendar and whatnot, this is kind of equivalent to having your hands cuffed and say, do you want your hands cuffed? They're marching against a very difficult schedule to get information over which they have no control to try and put this together, and they've done a great job. And I appreciate all that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. I concur.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Robbins. Quick referendum update. Sand Hill, for all intents and purposes, it's under construction right now. They've plowing in silt fence starting tomorrow. Everything is on track there. The elementary school at the Ponds, of course, Mr. Farnsworth mentioned that. We do have the building permit, and we are still continuing to have conversations trying to make an agreement with the land. The roofing exterior wall renovations, all of those projects are still in the design phase. I spoke with REI last week, and they should have us the contract documents within the next couple of weeks for all 4 of those projects. And in the pipeline, we got the gym at Somerville High School, Ashley Ridge additions. We're meeting this week to discuss that. The Somerville Elementary School addition, we've discussed that quite at length last week to make sure we had everything included in the floor plan we needed. And someone asked me about tennis courts today and at Somerville. So those are being designed by an engineer right now, so all that's in the pipeline as well. I didn't have time to add it to my list, but it's there. Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Just piggybacking on Mr. Farnsworth's comment earlier, so can you elaborate on the continuing efforts for the land agreement for ponds?
I'll take that one.
Thank you.
From me, Mr. Souls. So there are continued conversations when we look at the developer in the ponds and then the county. And there are some remnants dealing with the development agreement. And so the development agreement has gone through several different phases over the years. And then the latest one was, what, 2 or 3 years ago? 2023 was the latest development agreement approved by the county. And the issue there deals with the land, in theory, would not be deeded to the school district potentially until a later date in their development plans. So, of course, our intent is we need that now. There's really no reason not to do that. But again, it's unfortunate between those other. So yeah, that's where we got to figure out. And again, from our perspective, there's a little bit of a line, right? Because how far do we go into county council operations? About 0, because it's the same thing. We don't want them involving themselves in our operations. How far do we go in involving ourselves in Coulter operations? 0. But at the same time, there is a very defined need for the school district in the middle of all of it. And so I think as a board, and that's what I was saying earlier, as a board, we need to kind of identify, to your question, how do we move forward to help facilitate that? So that's what we need to work through over the next couple weeks.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee, and point of clarification, just so you know what's happened as of recently. Now, our team is working with the county team and with Coulter as well to try to do anything and everything we can, to extend an olive branch. But in recent weeks, the county council chair and our board chair has met to have dialogue. Then we met with Coulter as well as with the county to set and have discussions on where we were with the facilities committee. So we are very engaged in it. And again, we are just in the middle to be able to force anybody's hand on some of these things. And it predates most of us. But we're just trying to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar to get this building built so we can occupy it in August, and we keep impressing upon them how important that is.
Good evening. I'll just give an update on the other facilities projects. So obviously the bus maintenance facility for Oak Brook Middle School, that's still on the list. That's going to follow the Oak Brook Middle and Elementary addition. So EdCom will just kind of roll into that project as soon as they're finished with the middle and elementary school projects. As you can see up on the presentation, there is a groundbreaking ceremony for the middle and elementary school tomorrow at noon. And so those projects are ready to start turning dirt as soon as, actually they've already started some demos, so they had to make some room for us to actually have a groundbreaking ceremony. The Somerville High School softball field press box, the bids are actually due on the 6th of March, so we're eagerly awaiting those. We actually met some folks out there today to show them the site, some contractors that were requesting site views. The tennis courts, like I said, the design is expected mid-March. The Flowertown and Newington HVAC replacement, we're expecting a lot of that to get done at spring break. The locker rooms, the locker room replacement HVAC at Somerville High School, that's going to be right in the summertime, probably May, June timeline. Excuse me. And the Oakbrook Middle School, we should have quotes probably the next 2 weeks so we can get that one on the schedule for the summer. We're obviously about a month out now, and we're excited for spring break because we've probably got 30 projects overall that are going to start up during that week. It's a great time of the year for us to get going and hopefully have some updates when we come back in the April board meeting to show you some photos of some stuff that got done. And that's all I have for tonight.
Hey, could you give us a status update on, I know we talked a few weeks ago, but one of our board goals is the safe and secure vestibules. Was that a spring break project as well?
So obviously we don't think we can get them all done in 1 week.
Okay.
We're planning on getting the Flowertown and Oakbrook, potentially Fort Dorchester Elementary as well.
Okay.
Just kind of see how fast it goes, but we're definitely going to have them all done this summer.
Okay.
But we definitely think we're going to have 2 done spring break.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Then the last item I have tonight is the personnel report and student enrollment recommendations. And those documents were uploaded in your board packets.
All right, board members, as Dr. Robbins stated, we did receive the personnel report information in our board docs. So is everyone okay with proceeding with that in open session? Okay, then at this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the personnel recommendations as presented in our board packets.
Just had a quick question. Apologies. I had on 2 of the student enrollment requests, and maybe it was just my packet, it was the same school as listed as home school and requested school.
It is, yeah. Yeah, okay. So I would recommend then that at that time, you want to hold that one, those 2. You can vote on the other ones.
Good afternoon. If I'm remembering correctly, this is all one family, and is it okay to tell the schools? If I'm remembering correctly, it is Beach Hill Elementary is the home school.
I think this is the other one. So there were 2 that were in our packet looking at Sires.
Okay.
And it has the child at Sires with requested school Sires.
I would have to go back and look at that one. All I could think of is that it's a student who may be there already, but I'm looking at Christy.
So while they're checking on that, are we okay to proceed with the personnel report to start with while they are checking on that? All right.
I'll make a motion to accept the personnel report as presented in our packet.
Okay. All right. So motion made by Mr. Farnsworth to approve the personnel recommendations. Do I have a second? Okay. Seconded by Ms. Bates. Any questions or discussion? Again, this is just the personnel report. All right, hearing none, let's call for the vote. Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you. It appears that they have been attending Sires. They are requesting to remain at Sires, but they have moved to the Flowertown zone.
Okay, so homeschool is now Flowertown, requested school is Sires. Thank you very much. Okay, so with that in mind, at this time, are we okay to proceed with the student enrollment recommendations in open session? Yes? Okay. Could I get a motion to approve these student enrollment recommendations? Okay, motion made by Ms. Bates. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. King. Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robbins and team. All right, at this time, we will move into the public comments on non-agenda items. And this evening, we have one, Mr. Jason Brockert.
I only get 3 minutes, so that's, respectful of everybody's time. I'm just going to have to do this differently than any other time I've been at this podium. I'm going to read directly from my notes and not address you as human beings yet, due to the repeated dehumanizing treatment you've shown me and my family. I saw that anti-bullying measures made it onto the agenda today, but I didn't want to repeatedly hand you part of my 180 seconds to speak. Here are some facts. We lost our son, Julian, 14 years old, to suicide on May 23rd of last year. Say what you will about causation. That's not even on the table right now. The fact is that he was significantly bullied several times while in DD2 schools. We did not receive what we have conveyed that is not adequate. I wanted to come to the board meeting in June, but I asked a board member to speak about mental health instead. They did not. I finally got to a place where I could show up and speak again in November. I was summarily dismissed. I came back in December. I was again dismissed. I've been told that the board would be happy to speak with me. That is a lie. To be clear, the issue is that you will only speak to me behind closed doors. At the previous meeting, I was held to unreasonable rules, but kept my comments about agenda items and was interrupted. My non-agenda item remarks were in response to those interruptions. All of those are undeniable facts. This district, as many others, has a severe reluctance to acknowledge its real problems. Children are subjected to bullying on a daily basis, and the district's handling of the policy is not much more than lip service. That's not even specific to my own situation, as I know you've done it to others as well. I've spoken about them here before. I've been open and honest that we were advised to seek legal remediation, but that several law firms have declined to represent us because the law is clearly in your favor and they can't make a single case of gross negligence clear, and there's no provision for chronic negligence. So, facts, knowing that I don't want to sue you, I've been told I can't sue you, you should feel that you're safe enough to talk to me, but it's still legally inadvisable, and I continue to be dismissed. Will you ever have the decency to acknowledge me, or are you still hoping that I'll just go away and leave you alone to celebrate your accolades while people suffer daily? And by people, I mean not just the students. Yes, that's what I'm talking about right now, but it's everyone that's been minimized, the teachers, the admin, the bus drivers. It all feeds into each other. The students are not being protected. This board has refused to treat me with human decency. So now I'll ask you about everything that I just said. Is it hyperbole or is this unabashed honesty? I have sent these things to you. I have all the emails. That doesn't matter in court. My son was bullied. Fact. We reported it. Fact. We do not feel that it was followed up on correctly. Fact. We had been ghosted for a long time. Fact. I have been at these board meetings respectfully. Fact. Speak up for Julian. HonoringJulian.com. Call 988 if you feel like you're going to hurt yourself or anyone else.
All right, board members, this evening we do not have an executive session. So at this time, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Bates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. We are adjourned.